Hello and welcome to Collection Surveys, a brief overview, presented as part of the LA's Subject Residency Program, a project made possible by a grant from the U.S. Institute of Museum and Library Services. This workshop is designed for archivists, collectors, and anyone interested in understanding their collections better through surveys. You will learn the varying benefits of a collection survey and how to conduct one of your own. We will go through what a collection survey is, its different uses and interpretations, and how to conduct a survey. A note before we begin, I may use the word inventory at times in lieu of collection survey. The only distinction is that an inventory usually refers to a more detailed description of a collection, often at the file or item level. I will be using them interchangeably, and we will get into these specifics later in the video. 1. What exactly are collection surveys, and when are they useful? According to a recently updated dictionary of archival terms from the Society of American Archivists, a collection or record survey is defined as a process of gathering basic information about an organization's records, including their quantity, form, location, physical condition, storage facilities, rate of accumulation, and associated business processes. At its core, a collection survey is simultaneously an assessment tool, form of inventory, and documentation. Collection surveys typically require more time and resources than many archives and libraries have readily available for such a focused task. It's important to have a particular goal or reason for a survey, and set reasonable expectations for completion. You might want to start by asking yourself, how would our organization benefit from an inventory of our collection? What project or process would be better informed if we conducted a collection survey? In the next section, I'll expand on the different benefits and uses of collection surveys to help you find answers to the questions posed here. Section 2. Why conduct a collection survey? There are several reasons to build a survey for your collections, or just one collection in particular. In this section, I will outline 7 of the most central motivations for undertaking the survey process. Having a survey, first and foremost, allows one to act more strategically in meeting user needs. Knowing what you have and being able to locate it are essential for providing accurate and timely reference services, especially at organizations that are understaffed or volunteer-run. A complete survey can also help scale a project and help one make decisions on allocating available resources, securing additional funding, and determining how much time and labor will be needed for projects. A survey can help create adequate, consistent collection-level descriptions, like in a finding aid, an index, or general manifest of collections, for internal use or for potential users. It can also be helpful in renaming or reclassification projects. If you haven't checked on certain collections for a while, conducting a survey would also help you gain a better understanding of unmet preservation needs. Having accurate information about your collections can inform important decisions on collection management, such as prioritizing what needs to be processed, as well as larger-scale decisions like deaccessioning and revisions to collection development policies. When it comes time to prepare for an exhibition or a digitization project, even a box-level survey will help you understand what is in the collection. For a better informed digitization plan, an item-level survey that also records how many scans a collection consists of will also help scale the project, especially if digitization will take place in-house. If you don't already have an inventory, a collection survey would be the absolute first step before undertaking a digitization project. A collection survey, most importantly, allows one to gain intellectual and physical control of materials. According to a small 2014 study, institutions that had conducted surveys did so in order to better understand their repository's materials. Here, intellectual control refers to creating documentation or a database with a recorded inventory of the entire collection for future archivists, collection managers, and volunteers to become familiar with the holdings after change in personnel or change in methods. Knowing the collection also helps us make better informed decisions about physical and digital storage, and, as previously mentioned, collection development, retention, project planning, and considerations for the many other moving parts that keep gears turning at archives. If you want to read more about surveys, I've cited the 2 articles that I've used for this list on the last slide. Section 3. How to. Collection Survey Basics. Collection surveys are a very straightforward task and leave you with concrete information about your materials. Before you begin, you want to think about the type of inventory you want to conduct, what method you will use, and the purpose of the collection survey. Here I will go over the 3 types of inventories: box level, also called container level, folder level, and item level. A box level inventory is a survey of collections that generally does not involve recording information about contents in detail. This type entails simply marking a box, its location, and its general relation to the collection, such as if it's part of a sub-collection or series, and recording basic information about contents. This method is the quickest way to generate a collection survey with little to no interaction with materials, reducing handling, and it's ideal for location-based projects. Location-based projects vary in scope, from planning for a new shelving arrangement to a potential move to a new location. It's sufficient for keeping track of collections and noting any general preservation needs, such as new housing for materials. But the downsides of a box-level survey are that it's not very detailed and the uses for this information are limited. A folder-level inventory is a little more detailed and records more information. It's ideal for projects that have to do with access to collection, whether it's to increase access, restrict use to preserve items, or deaccessioning or removing materials from the archive. Again, one would be glancing at the materials in the folder and recording information already on the folder, such as the title and content notes. This method does assume that collections have already been processed and rehoused in archival folders or some predetermined arrangement, so this is one big limitation. Aiming to conduct a folder-level inventory before arranging the collection how you want it might confuse the processing plan. And finally, an item-level inventory is a survey of all items in a collection. This is the most detailed of the 3 types of surveys and is ideal for planning for an exhibit or a digitization project. If you've just acquired a collection, this is also a good step before processing, organizing, and rehousing. Because it's so detailed, it takes considerable time and planning. Thinking about the information you want to capture during an item-level inventory to tailor it to the needs of your project is often a belabored process. While conducting the inventory, you will also come into direct contact with the materials. So if items are fragile and handling needs to be minimal, consider a less disruptive method, or incorporate a preservation note in the process for whoever is doing the inventory, so you can take appropriate measures to protect the items as soon as you're able to. Once you've decided on the type of collection survey that suits your needs, there are a couple of different methods to consider. The most convenient method for centralizing input would be to use a spreadsheet to automatically enter data. Organizing information in this format is usually the final step before synthesizing the data from the collection survey. Another method, and one that I have more experience using, is to create a Google form to input data and have it automatically populate a spreadsheet that can be cleaned up and analyzed once the survey is completed. The downside of this is there could be errors during the inputting process, and you do have to remember to return and fix them, especially if the errors are egregious and can skew the information collected in the survey. The main benefit to using a cloud-based platform like Google Forms is that multiple people can be conducting the survey at once. All information that can be collected digitally can also be collected using a paper form. Any of the fields you would use in a Google form or a spreadsheet can be reformatted to accommodate any word processing document. If you do research online, there are plenty of samples of collection survey forms that you can use as a template. Another option is to use a paper form as well as a digital form. If there were multiple people working on the survey at once, this could get a little unwieldy if there isn't a tracking method for who's working on what. The benefits of this method are that the survey can continue if someone does not have access to a computer, or if they would prefer to use a paper form. As long as the effort is organized and someone is managing and tracking the process, the margin for error remains about the same as with the other two methods. One of the methods I will demonstrate in this video is designing a collection survey using Google Forms. This method is available to those who have a free Google account. This does limit its use, but it can be translated to a simple spreadsheet or to a paper form fairly easily by copying the fields and inserting formulas where quantity will be measured as a sum. To get started, you will click on the plus sign on the top left corner of your Google Drive page, pictured on the left. From there, you will select the purple Google Forms icon. This video shows a collection survey for the subject files at the June L. Mazur Lesbian Archives, currently in progress, as the first step for preparing a digitization plan. Most people input data using their laptops, some using their smartphones, and others using a paper form. The form is divided into 3 different sections. The first is where general information is entered, such as location and folder level information. The second section is to identify different formats in the subject files by quantity. These are classified using general terms after browsing through a few folders to get a sense of the subject files. And much like the beloved miscellaneous classification, there is an option to add in a format if needed. The third section is reserved for digitization and preservation specifics. Here is where those conducting the survey count the number of scans, which refer to each surface that has information on it. We also record the number of bound volumes to determine the best digitization method. Preservation needs are also recorded in this section, as it will affect how materials are handled and whether they need to be isolated or rehoused. If we go back to the top of the screen and switch to the Responses tab, you will see there is an icon on the right side where you can click through to the Google Sheet where data is being collected. Now that we know the basics of why collection surveys are useful and how to conduct them to an extent, let's revisit the questions from the beginning of the video. You might already have at least one answer to each of these questions, and collection surveys might still sound tedious and intimidating, but in the long run, they will help increase access to materials, plan digitization projects, and secure potential funding. They can aid in collection management and will allow you to gain intellectual and physical control of your collections. Thank you for joining me, and at the very least, I hope you now feel a little more confident in your capacity to document the materials in your collections.